All right, 3.4%. Easy topic. Just be careful. Should be in good shape here. Shouldn't be much issue, I wouldn't think. Really a refresher, right? We did percents quite a bit in pre-algebra. So remember, percent is the ratio of a number to 100, right? The ratio of a number to 100. And everybody remembers the simplistic formula, right? So on 3, go ahead and tell me the formula. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, I think I heard a lot of the number equals the percent times the of number. Number equals percent times the of number. And what's another way of saying that? Somebody raise your hand. And what's the other way of saying that, John?
Part equals
Percent times the whole. Part equals percent. That's what's going on, right? The of number is usually the whole. Part equals percent times the whole. Okay? Always, always, always remember, whenever dealing with percents in a formula, the percent is always in decimal form. All right, be careful with something like 7%. That's 0.07, right? Not 0.7. 0.7 is 70%. 0.07 is 7%. 5%, 0.05. Be careful there. That's something that students do and make a mistake there. And because we're doing percent problems, don't forget to ask DeMams. She knows everything. Really, with percents, ask, does my answer make sense? And if it doesn't, then you got something in the wrong place. Usually, what's in the wrong place? The number and the of number, right? You switch the part and the whole. You're not going to get the percent in the wrong place. So that's got to be the issue. So swap those numbers and see what happens. As we get a little bit more complicated, you could have forgotten to maybe come up with the sale price or something like that. But again, ask, does my answer make sense? All right, so let's start off with solving for the number, which is also the part. So again, these are very, very straightforward. Because again, number equals percent times the of number, right? So n, whatever you want, x, y, z. We all know 32% is 0.32, and we're all going to take our calculator out and simply punch in 0.32 times 75. Go ahead and punch it out. Punch, brothers, punch with care. Punch in the presence of the passengers. Does DeMams like your answer? 24 is 32% of 75. Sounds reasonable. 50% of 75 would be 37 and a half. I got to be below that. I am. It's reasonable. I like it. It's good to go. All right, go ahead and try number 2. See what you can do at 2. I'm going to pause. Sure. I'm frozen. Does DeMams like your answer? Does she like it? Are you sure? Can't tell? What's 10% of 210? 21, right? Can you do that in your head? 10% of 210 is 21. So I better be less than 21 because I'm at 7.5%, and I am 15.75. DeMams likes that answer. How many got that correct? Whoa, what happened there? 0.075 times 210. Punch the numbers. Questions on that? Any questions on that? Must have been the 0.075, huh? Okay. All right, now your memory's refreshed. You're not going to miss that again, I hope. And again, the ma'am should have caught that. You should have been questioning why you're not correct. All right, let's solve for the of number, which again is the whole. So simplistic problem for formula. Number equals percent times the of number. Always makes me think of the of glove. Do you know what the of glove is? Used to be a goofy commercial for an oven glove. You wear this glove to get your stuff out of the oven. Awesome. The of glove. I need one for down by my fireplace, really. Anyhow, all right. So let's go ahead and do this problem. 21 is 10% of what number? Well, that makes obvious where the variable goes. The variable is the of number. 10%, 0.1 or 0.10 if you want. 21 is the number. So again, we're simply going to divide the other side by 0.1, right? Again, technically, we're dividing both sides by 0.1. Shortcut, just divide the other side. Calculator, punch it out. 21 divided by 0.1. And a minute ago, I told you that 10% of 210 was 21, right? And sure enough, there we are at 210. The mams likes it. Mikey might even like it too. But you guys don't know that Mikey likes it, do you? You don't. It's because you're too young for that one. There used to be a commercial of some kids eating some cereal. I can't remember what the cereal was, but it was a pretty popular commercial. And the older brother gives Mikey the cereal, and Mikey starts eating it. And he goes like, "Hey, Mikey, he likes it." And so that was a big deal. Anyhow, so that's why Mikey likes it. All right. You had to have been there and saw the commercial like 800,000,000 times. Because you know what they do when they have a popular commercial. They just keep running it and running it. All right. So, number 2, go ahead and try that one. 6.25% of what number is 75? 6.25% of what number is 75? Okay, so who can explain if the mams likes this or not? 1,200 equals n. Who can explain if the mams is comfortable with this answer? Ileana, go ahead.
Because it says that it's that 75 is six and a fourth percent of what number, and about 100 and something is about 10% of 1,200, so a little less than that.
Okay, and that's the way I thought through it as well. If I look at the answer, it's easier to go to the answer and say, what's 10% of 1,200? 10% is 120. I'm down to 6%. I got to be lower than 120, and 75 is in that range of what you would expect to be of almost 4% lower. All right, that's the thinking there on does my answer make sense. Everybody got that one correct? Okay, and again, I'm not sure why you're missing these. They're way too easy. Make sure you punch them correctly into your calculator. Surely setting it up. Any questions on that? Any questions? Okay, let's go on then. Solving for the percents. And on these, because a formula yields the percent in decimal form, remember to change the answer from decimal form to a percent. Gee, I wonder what formula I'll use. How about the number equals the percent times the of number? All right, so let's see. Adam, tell me where to put the numbers.
Number is 20
Okay,
equals percent times 7.
And I concur, and hopefully you do as well. Again, part equals percent times the whole, and the whole is always the of number. So, John, what are we going to do next to solve this thing?
Divide 70 sides.
Okay, I'll divide both sides by 70, and that ends up with 20 divided by 70. If you want to read the percent right out of your calculator, then what you should do is multiply this by 100%. In other words, do 100 times 20, then divide by 70, and you'll read the exact percent off your screen. If you don't multiply times the 100, you'll be reading the percent in decimal form. So this gets you now into percent form. Again, it's up to you whether you want to do it times the 100 or not, but it does then allow you to read right off your screen. And remember, percents will go to one decimal place if that's applicable, unless it stops in a couple. And this one doesn't stop. And my calculator says 28.6% because I did multiply by the 100. And now I got to ask myself, does the MAMS like 28.6%? 50% of 70 is 35. 25%, or half of 35, is 17 and a half. I'm at 20. I got to be a little bit more than 25%. I am. The MAMS is a happy camper. So again, if you do the 100%, you're now taking care of converting from decimal form to percent form, and you can read it right off your screen. All right, so with that in mind, go ahead and try number 2. And I'm pausing. Just there. And that'll happen sometimes in a problem like this. You got to be careful in a problem like this. And I even hesitate on a problem like this, because you've got some aspects involved. Okay, so I have 30 bucks and I gained 20. So I had 30. I'm at 50. Does that mean I had a 60% increase, or is the 20 in respect to the 30? I'm not so sure I like 66.7%, but I'm not so sure I like 60% either. And as I look at this thing, I hesitate as I try to reason through it. Now, either answer is plausible, but I have to think, okay, he had 30 and he gained 20. So 20% gained with 30 is 66.7%. But a 20% gain, if you end up at 50, so you were at 30, you ended up at 50. If you do that problem, and you're going to end up with what, 2/5? So that's no good. That's going to be 40%. Yeah, I don't even like that. That's definitely not the case. And I would stick with 66.7. But that's a little tricky when you're trying to figure out things that change. Kirsten. Because I've got 30 bucks and I'm going to gain 20 in respect to the 30. That's the way I looked at it. I'm going to gain $20 in respect to 30. I'll tell you this. You could also think of it as 30 is what percent of 50. But again, it didn't really ask what percent you ended up with. It asked a percent gain. So it's a little tricky problem. We'll deal with this issue a little bit later in a little bit more simplistic way. I'm trying to think of it one other way. Yeah, okay. So, and I don't know if we're going to deal with this in a second. Do you guys remember the percent change formula? So we are going from 30 to 50, right? So 50 minus 30 is 20, and divide by the original number. So it would be 20 divided by 30, 66.7. Okay, that formula makes a little bit more sense in my mind to make me more confident that this is the answer, and it is. All right, let's go on to the next one. So again, that one a little bit trickier because it's not straightforward. All right, let me just refresh your memory on a few other miscellaneous things. Hey, change a percent to a fraction. Well, remember, percent means of 100, meaning the denominator is 100. And remember, you always reduce if possible. Reduce if possible. So 15% is simply 15 divided by 100. Once you do the per 100, you drop the percent symbol, because the percent symbol represents per 100. So when you do the per 100, you get rid of the symbol. And now it's just a reducing. And we all know you get 20 nickels for $1, right? So the 5s are gone, and we're at 3/20ths. You know, 100 only has so many factors to it. You know, you got 4 and 25 and a 5 and such. So 2s and 4s and 5s and 25s, 50 are factors of 100. Okay, so how about the other way? How about change a decimal to a fraction? Change a decimal to a fraction. So in this one, you got to multiply by 100 over 100. Or, and I'm just going to put the word or there, and that's why I'm going to put an asterisk, because this depends upon the form of the percent. And again, we're going to reduce if possible. So again, I know that's vague, 100 over 100. What do you mean by that? And I'll show you in a minute here. So 0.22, there are 2 decimal places, and I got to get rid of those decimals. So I definitely want the 100 on the top, and I got to multiply by a form of 1. I got to change the form and not the value. So hopefully you agree the top of this one, 100 times 0.22 is 22. Whatever it took to just get rid of the decimal. And so we're 22 over 100. Can we reduce that in our head? Can you? Right? 2 times 11 and 2 times 50. So it's 11/50ths. Again, if you can't, just factor top and bottom if you can't reduce it in your head. Okay, now the second one. If you wanted to, you can multiply by 100 over 100. You can. You can always use 100 over 100 if you want. But it's a little more simplistic to do 10 over 10. But you can use 100 over 100. It's just you'll reduce more that way. Because again, I just need to get rid of that decimal. So I end up with 4/10. The other way, you'd have 40 over 100. You just reduce out those zeros anyhow. So if you want, you can always use 100 over 100. But most will just go with as many decimal places as they need to get rid of that decimal. You know, what if I have like 0.175? Then I need to multiply by 1,000 over 1,000, right? Because I have 3 decimal places. 1 decimal place, 10 over 10, 2, 100 over 100, 3, 1,000 over 1,000. Because you got to get rid of that decimal place. That's the point. As many zeros as will get rid of that decimal place. Any questions on that? Okay, and then the last thing I want to refresh your memory on is changing a fraction to a percent. Look, all you're going to do is divide. You have calculators. Just divide it out. But remember, you have to finish off by multiplying by 100% because you're really finding the decimal value. And to change a decimal to a percent, multiply by 100% or move the decimal point 2 places to the right, right? So a lot of you know 3/4 is 0.75, but if you didn't, you would take the 3 and divide it by the 4, and your calculator would say 0.75. and then you would multiply times 100%, or you'd move the decimal point 2 places to the left, and you're going to get 75%, right? Again, bottom divided by the top. So when you see, I'll give you time there. Again, 3 divided by 4.75 times 100, 75%. So when you see 2 1/5 percent, everybody would automatically say, I need to make it into an improper fraction, right? So what do you get, 11/5? So now just take your calculator. Punch it out. Again, don't forget you're going to be in decimal form, so if you want to read it out of your calculator, multiply by 100. Now you're in percent. Or if you know how to read it right out of your calculator, move your decimal point 2 places to the right. This thing ends up, what, 220%? And that makes sense because every whole number is 100%. This would have been 8 1/5, it would be 820%. You know, if this would have been 77 1/5, it'd be 7,720%. Raquel.